Hey guys, welcome to Fanflix. The moment we've all been waiting for is finally here! Stranger Things has been officially renewed for Season 2 coming in 2017, as announced by Netflix via a new teaser video. Hooray! I'm so excited I can't stand it. So if you'll excuse me for a moment, there's something I must do. Sorry about that. Now, there's not any real information in the teaser itself. It's just letters assembling all of the title sequence during the episodes, but this time forming Season 2. But there are several phrases, 9 in fact, seen during the teaser. They seem random, but knowing this show, I don't think so. But before that, a new interview was also released with the Duffers from Entertainment Weekly that gives us a few more interesting pieces of info for Season 2 that I want to dive into. So we know that Season 2 will be a sequel following the same core characters from Season 1, but driven by an entirely new story. The second installment will be 9 episodes, but the Duffers don't want it to get too big. We're letting the story dictate it, says Matt. I think if it gets any longer, it gets unwieldy for us. We want to make sure it's manageable, and we want to be able to tell a movie-like story where it's never treading water. Cool, so there's going to be 9 episodes instead of 8 like the first season. I like that it will be a little longer, but they're smart not to overextend it. If it had 22 episodes or something, it would obviously lose some of that core concept of what they're looking for one continuous season-long story. They treat it more like a movie rather than a TV show, and I think that's a big part of Season 1's success. They also talk about how they consider Season 2 also like a movie sequel rather than a traditional TV season. And even the title of the teaser video is Stranger Things 2 instead of Stranger Things Season 2. I think this was a deliberate choice to make that distinction clear. I know movie sequels get a lot of shit, but the ones we look up to aspire to pivot and do something different, explains Matt. There's Temple of Doom, Aliens, Terminator 2. I guess a lot of this is James Cameron, but he's brilliant. And I think one of the reasons his sequels are as successful as they are is he makes them feel very different without losing what we loved about the original. Man, I love these guys. The more I hear from them, I feel like I have a cosmic connection. I think so much alike them, it kind of freaks me out, because Aliens and T2 are some of the best action films of all time, and a very good goal to reach for as far as sequel follow-ups are concerned. They also discuss how the season will take advantage of the year it takes place, 1984, referencing films from that year like Temple of Doom. This year is interesting specifically because many consider it to be the best year for movies of all time, at least from a genre standpoint. And I think the Duffer Brothers are the kinds of guys that are well aware of this idea. There are a ton of classics like Temple of Doom, Nightmare on Elm Street, Ghostbusters, The Terminator, Gremlins, Dune, you know they love Lynch, and another one of my favorites, Buckaroo Banzai. This year is also notable because Gremlins and Temple of Doom were responsible for the creation of the PG-13 rating. Both were rated PG and kind of pushed the envelope as far as movies for children go, and afterwards a new rating was created for these kinds of movies, made for kids but with some scary adult stuff in there too. Very similar to the Duffer-style scene presented in the show. And both of those movies had Steven Spielberg behind the scenes, another huge inspiration for the feel of the show. 1984 really is such an excellent year for the kinds of references that would work so well with their kinds of stories. I'm excited just thinking about it. The idea of a dark supernatural adventure based on these kinds of movies? Yes, please! We know that Season 2 will continue with the original cast of characters. Well, except Barb, she's still dead. But it seems like they're also minus one other notable exception. We don't know about 11, says Ross Duffer. We leave that up in the air. Okay, Ross, whatever you say, dude. Sure, you don't know anything. They are obviously being very tight-lipped about how we'll see 11 return, which makes sense considering where she winds up after the events in the finale. There's so many questions about where she could be that tipping their hat at all would be too massive of a reveal. Have no fear that 11 will return. There's literally no question about that as far as I'm concerned. They mentioned before about new additions to the cast, but now they've confirmed 4 new characters. There's going to be a lot of new and interesting dynamics that we didn't see in Season 1, says Matt Duffer. I would think that at least one of each of these characters would be tied to each set of age groups in the show to shake up their dynamics, as he mentioned, like one new kid, one new teenager, and one new adult. Just what I think would be the most interesting to see. I definitely think that at least one of these 4 new characters they're referring to is the new head of Hawkins that is yet to be seen. And can that character please be played by Kyle MacLachlan? He would be so perfect for that kind of role. Please, Duffers. It must be done. And earlier today, literally about a couple hours ago, this new breakdown was released, giving us our first real details about 3 of the new characters. First up, we have Max, who is a tough and confident 13-year-old female whose appearance, behavior, and pursuits are more typical of a boys than of girls in the era. Another kind of way to describe this character would be a tomboy, and I'm really curious to see how she'll fit in with the kids in Season 2. Then we have Max's stepbrother Billy, who is described as a super muscular, overconfident 17-year-old. He sounds like he's kind of the head honcho big man on campus, maybe kind of more of a jock character than we've seen in the show before, and I feel like they're actively making him seem like a jock so they can sort of play with that archetype, similar to what they did with the Steve a-hole character archetype from season 1. Then we have Roman, and it isn't known whether it's a male or female yet, but they are described between the age of 30 and 38. Roman has a pretty rough backstory growing up homeless with a drug-addicted mother. They suffered a great loss at an early age and has been seeking revenge ever since. To me, based on this backstory, it honestly sounds like this Roman character could be one of subjects 1 through 10 that we haven't really seen any information about in the show so far. It's cool because they actually did what I was initially speculating, adding a new character to each of the age groups, and there's still one character missing. I'm still betting it's the new head of Hawkins. We will venture a little bit outside of Hawkins. I will say the opening scene of the premiere does not take place in Hawkins. That's interesting that we'll see the story spread outside of Hawkins, and I feel like what they're referring to in this opening scene is what will essentially be the introduction of the main hub of the organization behind Hawkins. We know Hawkins have ties to the military and CIA in the past, so it makes sense that the Hawkins Research Facility in Indiana is not the main location of the whole organization. How cool of an opening would it be to start in a facility that looks like Hawkins, sort of mirroring the opening of season 1, but then we see more unfamiliar and ornate technology, and we reveal a huge room with controlled doorways to a bunch of different dimensions, as we know there are actually infinite ones out there. Oh man, holy shit, that would be awesome. All right, now back to the teaser and those 9 phrases. It's been widely speculated that these are the titles for season 2's episodes, but I honestly wasn't so sure at first. But executive producer / director Sean Levy confirmed to Hollywood Reporter that these are the titles or chapter headings for the next batch of episodes. And I'm sure each one of these phrases is a kind of clue about what we can expect to see in season 2. This is all completely speculative, of course, but just some of what I was thinking in relation to each phrase seen. First, we see Mad Max as one word. Naturally, we all think of the Mel Gibson powerhouse, but this came out in 1979, not technically the 80s, which is Stranger Things' wheelhouse. Regardless, what it makes me think of is the vast desert landscapes that define Mad Max's style. This seems similar to the barren nature of the Upside Down, but maybe it's referring to the look of a different dimension we haven't seen yet. But now that the new character breakdowns have come out, it's clear that Mad Max is actually referring to the new tomboy character Max. This is the title of an article seen in the police station in the 1 month later epilogue. I talked about this before, but the article contains a lot of information about the unseen fallout from when Will first returned from the Upside Down. I don't think they'll follow exactly what we see, but I think it's more to indicate that there is still going to be a lot of loose threads regarding season 1. I mean, as far as the general population is concerned, Will did come back to life, as Hawkins faked his death and everything. Again, there's a lot more to clean up with the aftermath, and I'm sure we'll see more on that next season. This particular phrasing of a pumpkin patch reminded me of the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, and by extension, the Pumpkin Patch segment of Trick or Treat. They are both very evocative of nostalgia and the feeling of being a child on Halloween, that kind of innocence. And where Trick or Treat plays with that is by adding a sinister undertone to the innocence. I believe this is what they're implying here, evoking that childlike nostalgia, but the idea that below the surface things are actually quite dark and evil. On a completely different note, I also thought that the phrase could kind of be a code name for a field of monster eggs, as pumpkins grow together in a patch, and it would be terrifying to see an entire hive of eggs in the same kind of pattern. This to me sounds like the name of the bigger organization behind Hawkins National. It just has the name of an evil HQ. Take 'em to the palace. I could see a much larger and grander facility than we are introduced to that is also involved in even more mysterious projects, and could possibly take advantage of the Montauk Project stories, with things like time travel and other out there stuff like that. It's a storm, you know? A storm signifies things are going to be not clear skies for the crew in the next chapter of the story. Certainly there's a lot of trouble to be unveiled in the future. I also did think of this in relation to a storm of the upside down spores in our world, falling out of the sky like rain and the spores pouring down. I don't know why that would happen, but it would look pretty cool. What the heck is a pollywog? It's a tadpole, so that immediately connected me to the slugs inside of Will. They are both a kind of larva of a new life, an amphibian or a monster, because I believe the slugs infest people and can turn people into monsters. And again, both the slugs and tadpoles sort of symbolize the beginning stages of a new life. Also, a tadpole evolves into a different creature, perhaps pointing to Will and others evolving into a monster as a result of the underworld pollywog? Could be. It's Lost again. It's fucking Lost. There's a secret cabin in the Upside Down where Jacob, King of the Upside Down, lives. He's got all the answers. So that only for people that have watched Lost. Just joking. It makes the most sense to me that this is referring to where 11 is. I believe 11 can now create her own doorways between dimensions and is laying low for her own safety. I think that Hop has made secret contact with her and is bringing her provisions and possibly even provided her with a cabin hidden in the woods. This is a huge aspect of the show in relation to the powers as seen, as it's through 11's mind or brain that she is able to astral project herself to the in-between to listen in on the Russian guy and later meet the monster. I feel like this will be a big factor going into season 2 with the show. Maybe we'll see other people with the same kind of powers as 11. Well, sounds like someone has a lost brother. And maybe new character Roman with her harsh homeless backstory is the lost brother. It does seem to fit in with the breakdown for the character. Wow, alright, I had a lot more to say about this than I realized. This show! Like I said, this is all just wild speculation, so let me know what you think the different phrases might mean in relation to season 2. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and until next time, thanks for watching FoundFlix. I'll just be here scratching my nose.